Yeah, super excited to be here. Thank you for having us on. Super excited to be here with MaxiTech. My name is Ernie LaBara. I head up our global financial services practice at Clinc. Clinc is a conversational AI company out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. We were founded 4 years ago on the promise of delivering, a conversational AI experience to enterprises at scale, and an AI that you could trust, right? So, there's a number of different artificial intelligence software assistants out there, but we have found globally that nobody's really delivered on that promise of an AI you can trust, right? So we're hard at work doing that globally. We're hard at work doing that in financial services, and super proud to have MaxiTech here. Our co-founding team is a number of 4 PhD computer science experts that came out of the University of Michigan. We are on this massive success growth period in 4 years, over 40 clients, some of the largest banks globally, money centers that are deploying our technology at scale and delivering on that promise of exceptional customer service, right? So, and MaxiTech is one of our production clients, right, with some superior containment numbers and rates that he's going to go over. So I'll turn it over to you, Burak, and let you go through, what makes us different, right? So up on the slide here is really on the left-hand side, you'll see like a traditional approach to building out a very tree-structured experience, right? And how you'd interact with an assistant or maybe an IVR, right? That's in play today, handling customer service requests. And then on the right is really the Clinc approach, right? So being able to speak and deliver a human in the room level experience, right, that you trust, but can also scale across multiple lines of business, in contact center, in digital, in a branch, wherever you want to deploy it, right? So we're delivering on that technology promise and on the promise of delivering that experience to your customers. And I'll let
thank you.
Burak expand upon the use case.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. So hi all, my name is Burak, and I am the CEO at MaxiTech here. MaxiTech is a San Francisco-based innovation company of Isbank, which is currently the largest private bank in Turkey. Let me share some information about the bank. The bank has about 13 million customers, and almost 7 million of them are digital banking users. They have about 1,200 branches, and currently they have operations in not just in Turkey, but 13 different countries. So our main purpose as MaxiTech here to empower digital transformation of the bank. We are partnering with startups. First, we identify best-in-class startups according to bank's innovation strategy, and then we implement pilot projects, POCs, with our local engineering team here in San Francisco, together with the startups team, and then we create tangible outputs of the technology in bank's terms and bank's data. And then we let bank executives decide partnering with the startup or not. This is basically our business model here. So even though we are the subsidiary of the bank, we are also working with other corporate customers across different industries like retail, manufacturing, and insurance. So as we touched upon, bank was actively looking for a partner to implement a conversational banking solution. So we met with Clinc team in 2017. So we decided to proceed with a POC. Actually, after several successful POCs, the bank decided to partner with the company, and we announced our partnership in Money 2020 stage in 2018. And then we formed the project team around January 2018. MaxiTech also involved in the project, and in just 10 months we were able to go live in the production environment, and these are the current numbers of our conversational banking solution. By the way, it's called Maxi. It's nothing to do with MaxiTech. I don't know, Isbank really loves the word Maxi. I don't know the story here. But as I told you before, there are total number of 6.5 million digital banking users right now at the bank. When we first launched Maxi, it was about 2.6 in March. And then after a few months, we reached the 3.5 million. And now it's about 3.6, and it's almost more than half of digital banking users are now enrolled in Maxi. And monthly active users is around 2 million right now. So first, we adapted the Clinc Fini products out-of-box competencies. Of course, there were some changes required to adapt it to the Turkish market. The most importantly, the Turkish language, obviously. And there are some market differences between US and Turkish market, as you can imagine. For example, currency exchange transaction is very wide, one of the very wide used transactions in Turkey, but in the US, it's not that much widely used, so we have to work on those. And also the language worked with postfixes. And every postfix you added to the word, it changed the meaning a lot. So we had to train the system from scratch for Turkish. As of now, we have about 11 million interactions, and interaction per user is about 5.8. I think this is an important metric because we started with 1.5, and as our customers understand the value and get used to Maxi, the engagement increased a lot, and now the users ask more than 5 questions in one session. And we support both text and voice, and we observed that the voice integration is about 10%. So they mostly prefer text messaging. So these are, on the right-hand side, you will see the competencies, use cases. We also added our own competencies using the training platform that Clinc has, with the minimum involvement from the Clinc team. Actually, our business units can easily do that, and they added currency exchange operations, payments, bill payments on their own.
Cool. Thank you, Burak. So I'll probably have, in the interest of time, right? I want to leave some time for the audience questions. So just 1 or 2 questions from my side after hearing what you have presented, specifically around the channels. Piers, you have launched your bot in the text channel. You also mentioned that a presence in the voice with the IVR, right? So given that there's a whole gamut of options, right? In text you have the website, you have social media, and in voice you have the device integrated, device independent, if I may call it, and all the way up to IVR, right? Automation. What's your opinion on voice automation as such? Do you think the technology is already there? And given the success that you have on the text, do you think it's if you have to expand into voice, what's your opinion about it?
Well, overall perspective is we want to meet customers where they are. So we actually do want to have, as we were saying before, text. We want to have voice available, whatever the customer's comfortable with or whatever's appropriate for that situation. We want to be able to help them there. We kind of came at it from a different perspective. We started with voice. We built the NLP for our voice remote that's used in our X1 video system. I think my data might be a little bit outdated, but we had we do something like 14,000 hours of utterances every day coming through the voice remote. So we have a lot of volume in terms of understanding what customers are saying. We figured out that people from the South say please after they say change the channel and things like that. And all those kinds of different dialect things, that was where we started. And then we moved on to the customer experience aspects and then more text and things like that. So we've got sort of a nice head start, but what we're finding out is that the interaction patterns are different. People are much more casual speaking than they are typing, and then we found out that people want to do emojis in typing, and then what's the equivalent on the voice side, and that's you start getting into sentiment analysis and things like that on the actual voice. So it bleeds into each other, but we feel like we have to have an experience that's available in any channel, because that's the only way you're actually going to solve customer problems, is if you are where they are.
Yeah, I agree. Completely agree with that. The interaction models completely changed. There's a misconception that if you develop something on chat, you can just go deploy it, just voice activate. That's not the case, right? Yeah, completely agree with your views. Thanks for that. So yeah, we can turn it over to the audience if anybody has any questions. We have about 4 to 5 minutes. So if anybody has any questions, probably we can take those and have the panelists answer them.
Hi. I want to say I was very impressed by the results that you shared today. Thank you for that. I'm Vittorio from Bot Society. I wanted to ask, how important do you think is designing the experience before actually building it? And how did you approach this problem?
I can take that one. Yeah, we think it's a huge differentiator, and we've built it, like the scoping and designing of the experience into the platform of Clinc. So it's an integral part of you making sure that the experience you deploy is the experience you can trust, and that in the experience that your customers will use, right? So it's a very important step, and a step that you have to do up front, right? And then before you start collecting data to build the experience, you should be able to make sure what features and what the design is going to be, right? So it's important to have that in your design process. Absolutely.
I would just have to add, you also have to be able to be agile and fix,
Absolutely.
right? So we stub our toe all the time, on things that we get wrong, and then we have to be able to fix it, and then see, as we're looking at the data, does the data change? Are we actually getting better about answering customer issues, things like that? But we go into it saying, hey, we're gonna have a great design, knowing that we're gonna get it wrong, and then you have to be able to improve upon that really quick.
And I'll add to that, right? Even in our experiences, when we service customers, the competency we have specifically for what the question that you have is called CX, customer experience. We have the dedicated competency. We have CXO, and under him we have CXO. Yeah, that's critical to design conversations, and the experience part of it. And like Piers mentioned, right, experience will vary based on channel. So interaction models will drastically change on channels. So yeah, that's a pretty important consideration when you're developing a bot.
I think design also impacts the tone of the conversation too, right? So if content or words are the majority of your product, design has to be a little muted, right? But it also needs to enhance it in a way to kind of introduce the style or the language or the mannerisms of the conversation too. So I think we focus on design from an experience of setting the tone, like what are the words or the specific ways that we talk to our users on Roo. So being non-judgmental is really important, and we do that on the content, and we also focus so much and obsess over it in the design too. And we do it in a way without blasting it, right? So it has to be very subtle, which is really challenging when you're not designing like a big screen product and you just really have a conversation to produce.
Yes, I have a question for Ambreen, maybe, but you might have answered part of it. What consideration went into the design of Roo to make sure you can establish this relation of trust with the teenagers that use it, which seems to be even more important than any of the other applications we've heard today?
It's a great question. I think we spent so much time on it. I think that was one of the biggest reasons why we spent 1.5 years up front doing the research. So everything from the name, Roo is short for Roobot, we like to say. We wanted it to be gender neutral. So we had to create an avatar that was gender neutral. And I think what we wanted to do is strip the foundation of what a text message looks like. So if you guys engage with Roo, if you go to roo.plannedparenthood.org, you'll see that it looks very much like a text message, but we've stripped it of like the gray and blue bubbles, the default experience, and made it a playful environment. And that, again, going back to your initial question on design, it's really hard to do because how can you really reinvent text? You can't. But you have to do it in a way where someone is going into this experience and saying, this is unique. This is not a text message. I'm not gonna store any data. This is actually a playful environment. It's also safe. And there's a lot of gestures that Roo does. So if you take a little bit long to type, it starts like kind of yawning. There's some Z's that pop out. If you ask a really clever question, it engages with you. So the avatar comes to life in really, really, really subtle ways. But as a teenager, you're very observant about those things, and you catch on and you enjoy the conversation very quickly and get immersed in it. But it's really interesting, like it's in our release notes, we're like, added a wink, versus like traditional software, we would be changing a whole facade of user experience that we do. But those subtleties really make a difference for us, for sure.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's pretty much, we have, I think, over on our time, and it was a pretty useful and discussion. I found it pretty enriching, all the insights that I got. Hopefully you all found it pretty useful too. Thank you very much.
Thank you.